I'm back with Dr. Timothy Ball, a skeptic of man-made global warming. He's the chairman of the National Resources Stewardship Project and was professor of climatology at the University of Winnipeg before retiring in 1996. I mentioned the National Resources Stewardship Project. Is it true that the High Park Group, advocacy group, which is seems to be some kind of advocacy group for big oil, Canadian Gas, Canadian Electrical Association, gas well drillers, are they funded? The directors that are on your association, they're also on this advocacy. Is that true?
No, that's not correct.
Explain what that's about then.
The idea of NRSP was an idea that Tom Harris and I had, and we got advice from Tim Egan, who is the owner, or I don't know what his position is actually, at the High Park Group.
And aren't they a registered lobbyist for Canadian Gas Association?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what they do. NRSP is independent of that, and one of the things I fought through all of this is to try and retain my independence. So, for example, when I helped set up a group called Friends of Science in Calgary, and I still advise them behind the scenes, but I'm not involved with them at all. What we did there was we made sure that all the funding went through the University of Calgary.
Right.
And so I've always tried to keep myself distance from that.
But I mean, if it's distance, that's one thing. But if the High Park Group, in fact, is based out of Toronto and the NRSP office is one door down in the same building.
No, that's not true.
Were they one door down ever?
No. The NRSP is in Ottawa. It's not even in Toronto.
Okay, so there's no connection, you're saying, between.
No, I'm not saying there's no connection.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that they're independent, but it grew out of Tim Egan's advice and his idea, because what we're trying to do at NRSP and what I'm trying to do is to get all of the information out there. I'm not trying to be an advocate for anything other than the truth. And
well, you can see that it seems a little sketchy.
Yeah.
If the one organization is a lobbyist group for big oil, and then you're trying to...
But I can tell you David Suzuki is funded by 3 oil companies.
And is that true?
Well, yeah, and yet, he claims, oh, well, it's completely independent. This idea about independence and lobbyists has become a big issue. And what's interesting about it is when you look at the amount of money that's spent, for example, in the U.S., Exxon, $16 million on climate. All of that, as far as I've been able to determine, has gone to trying to show or to explain what science knows and doesn't know, to get to the truth of the matter. But compare that with the $2 billion a year that the U.S. government's spending on climate change. Or in Canada, the $6 billion since 1997 that the Auditor General has said, it's basically said wasted through Environment Canada. And all of that
where should this money be going? I mean,
well, the money should be going to cleaning up pollution. Okay,
so you're saying, listen, we do need to deal with pollution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But the global warming issue, you're saying, it's a fear tactic.
It's a fear tactic, and worse of all, it's distracting from dealing with pollution. I mean, Environment Canada, $6 billion since 1997. Where did it go? It went to groups that could try to prove that global warming due to humans is correct, when in fact, what a scientist should do is be skeptical, and that is to prove that that's not true.
What is the biggest cause of global warming from you as a climatologist? You're saying it's not CO2. What is it?
Sun.
The sun.
Pure and simple.
The sunspots, sun radiation issues.
Okay. One of the things that's interesting is the IPCC report says, the sun only explains 50% of the temperature variation in the last 130 years. But that 50% is only one way that the sun affects the global climate. For example, if you went out to Vancouver here and picked up a textbook from the high school, you'll find that it tells the students that the orbit of the Earth around the sun is a fixed elliptical orbit. That is simply false. Okay. And we've known for 150 years that's not true. So 22,000 years ago, the orbit of the Earth around the sun was a much more extreme ellipse. So what I'm telling you...
And because it's closer, you're saying as it travels, you're going to find some heat variation in
Of course.
In the travel of the Earth.
And James Kroll was working with that 150 years ago. That's called the Milankovitch effect. The tilt of the Earth isn't 23.5 degrees. That's just close enough for government work. And it changes from 21.8 to 24.4, and it oscillates back and forth. Now, it's not talking about the wobble. So what I'm telling you is every single year the orbit's different. Every single year the tilt is different. None of that is in the IPCC computer models. And they say, oh, because it's too short term.
Right.
But you're telling me what it's going to be like 100 years from now.
Right. And you're saying those issues are outside of human control.
Oh, absolutely.
Are they large enough to bring the catastrophes that we see, rise of sea levels, melting of ice caps? Will that happen?
No, of course it will, and it's been happening.
It will happen.
No, but it's been happening. The world's been warming up since the peak of the Ice Age 22,000 years ago.
There's no spikes since the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, tremendous spikes, but none that relate to the human production of CO2, and in fact none that relate to total CO2. In fact, if you look at the historic temperature record, it doesn't fit the CO2 record at all. And in fact, what was interesting was that when they first came out with this, they said, oh, here's the ice cores, and the temperature's going up and down, and the CO2 is going up and down. What we now know, and everybody agrees, is the temperature changes before the CO2.
So the CO2 doesn't make the temperature...
It's not driving the temperature. It's more likely the other way around. And of course, but that's still not what they've got in their computer models. Right. The computer models are still set up that if the CO2 increases, the temperature will go up. But that's scientifically incorrect.
So when are these G8 national science committees and the IPCC going to sit down with Dr. Timothy Ball and get it straight? When is that going to happen?
I don't know when it's going to happen, but that's what we're trying to do in NRSP. We're demanding that all the facts, and even the new conservative government, which said before they got elected, oh, we're going to have an open debate, hasn't happened.
You're saying this has been, is there a conspiracy of power behind this issue and fear-mongering?
I don't like the word conspiracy. It's more a cabal. Okay. If you know what that is.
I don't really.
Well, a cabal is a group of people who have a political agenda and set out to establish
So there's an agenda driving this
absolutely.
issue.
Absolutely.
More with Dr. Ball right after this break. Thanks a lot.